Hello and welcome to the Southbound Sports Show. I'm your host, Richie Leahy, here with my co-host, Matty B. And Russell Wilson pulls it off again with great offense? No. He had one good pass late in the game. Although, no, he had the Pickens pass, and they took the touchdown away because they said that he didn't get 2 feet in. But he did get 2 feet in. The rule does not say that it has to be different feet. So he caught the ball, for people that didn't watch the game, because it was Monday night late. He catches the ball about the middle of the end zone, right? On one foot.
On his right foot.
The defender pushes him, and he hopped back near the end zone, but he was clearly in on his right foot again. Because the way the guy pushed him, it was from the side, so he kind of just hopped 2 feet in, right? And then he fell out of bounds. But because he had the same foot in twice, they said it didn't count. That it needed to be 2 different feet. I didn't read it 2 different feet in the rule. Although it might have said, did it say 2 different body parts? I don't know. Because they said it could have been a hand, it could have been anything else that could have touched his shin, and it would have been a touchdown. But then one of the announcers said, what if he catches it and just hops on one foot because he got injured 6 times to the sideline and went out of bounds? They wouldn't give him a catch? That's a scenario that could happen, right? You're running a crossing route, pull a hammy, so you're hopping on one leg because you're wide open, but you just go out of bounds and then fall down. You hop 4 times. I mean, it's never happened before, so at least to my knowledge. I mean, it might have happened, but I didn't give him the catch. And I didn't hear that they changed it yet, but I bet they changed the rule because that's kind of ridiculous. Although, again, it never comes up. It's the first time I've seen it, and I watch a lot of football. That's how I watch play in the first place. But Russell Wilson, the announcers, the entire game are talking about how Mike Tomlin made the right call. And then they were calling out the fans and us, saying people speculating that he made the wrong decision pulling in Russell Wilson. It's no, we never said that Russ wasn't a decent quarterback. I explicitly said that he usually has a shelf life every season. He's good for a couple games, 5 to 7 games. I think 5 is what I normally say. And then he starts to drop off. They played him in the middle of the year, beating up on the Giants, teams that are poor, right? These aren't teams that are good. And then when he gets, because they haven't played anyone in the division, I don't think. I think it starts next week. Not that, well, your boy Jameis had a showing. But I would say not that the other division mates are any good. The Bengals look awful. I would say with Jameis, the Browns look better. And then the Ravens look good. So
that warms my heart that you say that.
Buddy, the Browns have been so bad with Watson, I don't know what they were thinking. Now, Jameis, I mean, he made that bonehead play where he threw it right to the defender. And the guy was so shocked he dropped it. And then he threw a touch on the next play. Lucky, maybe. I don't know, but he got it done. And to me, you're playing the Ravens. So at some point, it wasn't like he came in and they beat the Patriots or someone that's bad. Because even Aaron Rodgers lost to the Patriots. So I'm saying right now, Jameis, he was more clutch than Aaron Rodgers has been. Aaron Rodgers has been fading late in games. Almost like I expect to happen to Russell Wilson. Although, I don't know if I would bet on it. The Steelers play a ball, type of ball that doesn't really put the game in his hands. Even late in the game, he ended up scrambling and being short, and then they had to punt. And I thought, what is he doing? Why is he even running the ball? He can't just throw it away? He didn't get the first down. He could have got hurt. But I thought, don't even put it in his hands. Don't put it in his hands. Just finish playing Steeler ball, run the ball 3 times, and then punt. They're trying. They think that they have something with him, and I haven't seen it. He hasn't been able to close the games out. Heck, yesterday the punt return broke it open.
Well, that's.
I don't even know. Go ahead.
That's where I feel like that's the strength of the Steelers is that they're so like, even when you go back and you look at the early part of Roethlisberger's career, like, it wasn't like he was out there winning games by himself. It was him running around like a giant refrigerator the guys were bouncing off of. And they had such a good defense that it was like, just don't turn the ball over 45 times and we'll win this game. And I think, like, that's the same model that they need to follow. It's like, you have a consistent ground game now with Najee, pound the ball, kick 17 field goals that are really obnoxious, and win the game 17-13. Like, it's ugly. It's terrible to watch, but a win is a win is a win.
Well, see, that's where right now, even against the Giants, they couldn't close it out. The punt return kind of broke it open, and then it almost turned into a shootout until Daniel Jones just stood there and let TJ Watt take the ball away from him. Like an embarrassing like strip sack, because it was right in his face. There's no way he didn't see him. And then he just stood there like he was confused, and it was so embarrassing that I felt bad for him. But then I thought, like, Giants fans have to know he's not the guy. Like, I don't think I've ever seen, like, Peyton Manning get punked like that. Even throughout his, like, struggles of not winning big games. Like, even he had the presence of mind to never take a sack like that. Like, that, it was so debilitating that I just, for Giants fans, they have to think, like, well, that's it. Like, Barkley was running all over people with the Eagles. They got rid of him. And it's like Neighbors is dropping passes right to him because they're like a little bit behind. But even then, I'm like, why is he dropping that? I could have caught that. So it was an all around like, oh, this organization's in trouble feel. But Russell Wilson, like, everyone's talking about it. The announcers are loving it that he's in. And I get it. He won a Super Bowl. Did he win one or two? I can't remember. We talked about this whole time. I never remember. But he did get the Super Bowl win, and then it's all been downhill. It's almost like Aaron Rodgers. One Super Bowl, people talk about like he's going to have a big-time legacy. Honestly, he's not. Anytime I talk to, like, even younger kids, like younger guys, like, yo, like, who's your favorite quarterback? It's all like Mahomes. And then there's like no even close second. Like, no one even brings up Aaron Rodgers anymore, other than like Chris Collinsworth. And then, like, in random Steeler games, when they're like, remember when Aaron Rodgers beat the Steelers in that Super Bowl? He's lucky he did. Because otherwise, he would just be, I don't know, Phillip Rivers. No one brings him up. He didn't win anything. I don't know where people would put Aaron Rodgers, especially now because he, like, changed teams and he's awful. Where he's doing what everyone thought Tom Brady was going to do. Oh, I'm going to go to a new team. And everyone's like, oh, he's going to suck. He needs Belichick. And Aaron Rodgers goes there. They're firing coaches mid-year. He got hurt last year. And I think that's what everyone expected out of Brady, not like a Super Bowl. And having them close to another one. And then that was it. So, I don't know. I'm still feeling the same way. The Chiefs don't really impress me, but they keep winning. And sometimes that's good enough. Like, they almost lost. And then that was like the highlights are like, the Chiefs almost lost. I'm like, yeah, they almost lose every week, it feels like. But in the playoffs, you're not playing scrub teams every week, and the Chiefs seem like they can get up during those games, and they're ready to go. So I wouldn't write them off. Other than that, I mean, like, Ravens lost. I thought they were the second best team, but they lose to Jameis. And then his interviews are just off the wall, and I know he's doing it on purpose. And like,
you don't know that.
You think that's how he talks?
Yes, I think that's how.
That's like
talks.
An interview I would give, dude. Off the wall, crazy. The one he just kept praising God, and the lady was like, she didn't know what to do, made her uncomfortable. So, I'm saying maybe he's over the top because he's uncomfortable in the interviews. I don't know, but clearly that's his style now. And he's going to start topping it. He's going to turn into AB. Like, what's AB do? Like, cracker of the day or something like that now? Like, it'll be like that'll be Jameis's next evolution. Him and AB will be doing a podcast together when he retires. It'll be like the next Ocho Cinco and T.O. Like, teams, sign us back. We can play still. But yeah, Jordan Love got hurt, and he feels like the second time he got hurt. And it's funny because Malik Willis is doing a great job filling in. Meanwhile, I played the wrong defense in fantasy because I was going to put the Lions in, and then I thought they're playing Tennessee. I didn't realize their quarterback was Mason Rudolph, and of course he had an awful game, and the Lions just killed them. And I thought, man, I could have played against Mason Rudolph. That would have been a great pick. I played the Packers D, and they did okay, a couple points, and I ended up winning anyway because of the Steelers choke last night. Because the guy had Russell Wilson on his team. That's how I know Russell Wilson didn't do that good. Because if Russell would have had a good game, I would have lost in fantasy. But I had a comfortable 7-point win. It was projected to be like a tie. If he had an average game, he did. So they took that touchdown off him, and he had the one touchdown later, and then he fumbled it. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm good now. He's not throwing another touchdown. He was scrambling. I'm like, don't get it a couple points here and there, buddy. Just lay down. Take a knee. Let the defense do their thing. But with the Packers, I don't know how to feel because when Love's in there, they're really good. And if he's going to keep getting these like ticky-tack injuries, this time it's a groin injury, I feel like they should just rest him and ride Willis. They don't need to win the division. The NFC doesn't seem like it's that deep. Rest. Let him go. Get some experience. Or I don't know if they're afraid or if Jordan Love's afraid that Willis is going to be play better. But I think with Love's upside in the contract they gave him, there's no way he's going to get Wally pipped. If anything, it's going to give the Packers some trade bait. Because some teams have to be desperate for quarterbacks. Like Tua came back. Did you see that? And they're like celebrating him.
Yeah.
And then they're like,
he made it through without getting.
They're like, he did a great job protecting himself. And then they had NFL had like a big thing on it, how he was protecting himself. And I'm like, they said that last year. And like 3 times this year already. He needs to make it through a year without getting hurt. Although it could be worse because Richardson, my fantasy quarterback, I took a gamble on him and I thought this is going to be the guy, right? High points, had a couple great weeks. I was in first, like high scoring in the league. And then he got hurt. Was it against the Steelers he got hurt? I think it was like a hip injury or something. He came back. He's been healthy though. So if he pretended like he got injured, he's lying. He ran the ball. Did you see his interview?
No.
So he ran a really long run or something. I don't even think it was that long of a run, to be honest. And then he took himself out of the game, dude. And then the reporter asked him about it. He said, not going to lie, I was just really tired. And they were like, are you serious? So then they benched him. Like he wasn't injured in the game, but he wanted out of the game. He needed a break. Like what quarterback needs a break? Could you imagine Tom Brady being like, I got to take a rest? And he's been off rehabbing. You don't think that he should just be in shape? I was surprised. Like honestly, I thought he was going to be a bust of a pick. Quarterback from Florida. When are they ever good? You know? What, Rex Grossman? So I thought, oh, he'll be a bust. And then he's been great in fantasy because he runs so well. But I feel like his career is not going to be very long. I mean, but like Jaden Daniels, he threw that Hail Mary. Did you see that Hail Mary? There was a guy.
I think the funniest part, you talking about the Bears defender.
Yeah.
So he's talking trash to the Commanders at the end of the game. And there have been like a pile of memes about it where he's just talking trash. And then as the play starts, he runs over to where all the Hail Mary bodies are and is the one that ends up tipping the ball to the Commanders player that won the game for him.
Yeah. And I don't even think he was ready. Like if you watch I don't know if you saw the side by side, but like Daniels went to throw it earlier and then he had to a sack was in his face. So then he had to kind of go, which allowed his receivers a little bit more time to set up. If he didn't do that, there's no way that defender, because he wasn't even turned around during the first attempt throw, I don't think. There's no way he would have been able to get over there on defense. Like he was taunting the crowd or whatever he was doing. And he didn't even realize that the play was going on. So either way, he's screwed. Right? Because if they would have threw the first time, even if they would have missed it, because he didn't get over there to tip it up, he would have got torn apart in film room, I think. Like, hey, go out there,
Yeah.
buddy. Like, what are you doing? Pumping the crowd up. They started playing jock jams. I had to get up. I was ready to go. But I don't know. I don't know how to read that Redskins team or Commanders team because, like, I know Daniels is hot. He's a rookie. I don't know how good that team is. They've been so garbage. It's not like they even had talent to be one of the top teams in the NFC. But I do want them. I don't like that they changed their name. I don't like when people put in outside pressure like that. But I also know that they're fans because there's a good bit of Washington fans down here because they didn't have a team for a while. So a lot of the older guys are either Washington fans or what was their team? A lot of people are fans of Falcons. And then there's another one. It wouldn't be the Ravens. It was someone else. But I felt bad for them. They haven't seen winners for a long time. Let them see at least get in the playoffs and have a run. Like I don't even remember them kind of like the Lions last year making their run like that. People haven't seen that since like the 90s. I don't know when the last time Washington has been deep in the playoffs. Not for a while that I remember. And so, I mean, like the Falcons have, but I still don't know if I could cheer for a team that changed their name like Cleveland too, to like even a dumb name like that. Like they went with the most generic names. That it's just like you lose uniqueness. They had the name. They could have been the Pigskins, dude. If they would have went to the Pigskins, I wouldn't even have cared. Like that's the most natural name, and they're like, no, we're gonna go Commanders. Like why? Well, it rates well. Pigs could be upset if we use pigskin. Like people without skin, they could be upset. So like you never know. Go with the generic name. Like could have been called like the Safeties or something, which would be even worse. They could do the safety dance out there as their celebration dance, but we didn't get to that point yet. Any NFL things that stood out to you this week?
There really wasn't a whole lot of NFL stuff that stood out this week. I mean, I was just satisfied being able to watch the Steelers and have them kind of playing somewhat decent ball. Like it wasn't perfect by any stretch, but I feel like they've thrown their hat in the ring for every available free. Like it's been speculated that they're going to sign or trade for every receiver in the NFL, which, you know, Ayuk has the torn ACL and on the IR. It's like they dodged a bullet there because that could have been a potential injury waiting to happen for them had they actually pulled the trigger on that.
But maybe he wouldn't have got hurt.
Ooh, devil's advocate.
I mean, look at McCaffrey. He was always hurt until he got traded. You get traded, you don't get hurt.
Well, that is true.
It's in the rules. I mean, I'm just going by what other people like McCaffrey have done. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe someone.
Devontae Adams was suddenly healed.
Yeah, Devontae Adams got healed. Ayuk wouldn't have got hurt. It would have been perfect. That's what they should do. Anyone that feels like they're going to get hurt, they're like, I need a new team. I got to get out of here. My ACL is really feeling tender. I know if I play for Pittsburgh, it won't injure myself. And they're like, oh, if you put it that way, I guess we'll have to make the move. Because right now, with football, we have what? Bye weeks coming up. The Niners have a bye week. That always makes it tough for me for fantasy. Because some of my guys are just hurt. And then when you have injuries and bye weeks, it's really tough. And you see a lot of teams like score well below their average. And I'm like, oh, let me look at my matchup. Maybe we'll both have guys out. It's like, nah, just me. Awesome. Maybe I'll have a decent week. But I have noticed like some guys, like Bo Nix gets hot, and it's like, do you pick him up? Who else am I going to play at quarterback, right? I got to start making some moves. Is he going to be like the rookies? You never know. Because is the guy going to go ahead and be hot? Or is he going to go out and score like 3 points? Like he's playing Baltimore. Doesn't seem like a favorable matchup. And for defenses, like I need a defense this week because I have Lions and Packers. They're playing each other. And the Lions have been dominating teams. And if Malik Willis plays, I could play Detroit, but what if he doesn't and Love plays and then it's much different? I don't know. Although last time Malik Willis played, the Packers played safe ball. And the defense that they played kind of didn't score well because there was no turnovers or anything. They were just giving up a bunch of like running yards. But I don't trust these other guys. Like even the Patriots beating the Jets, they played Tennessee, and I know they have probably Mason Rudolph. Do you go for that, Matt? What do you think I should do?
I don't know.
Well, the Colts bench Richardson, so now they went with like Flacco. Like they're playing Minnesota. Minnesota, for some reason, has been falling off. Is it the Sam Darnold curse? He's hitting the Russell Wilson wall. Well, how many weeks in is it? 7 weeks? They got him figured out now? Do you think?
Maybe.
Because that's like an eye-opener. And then I hate when ESPN puts headlines in because it'll be like, McCarthy fighting with so-and-so. And I'm like, JJ McCarthy? Like, oh, Mike McCarthy. Like, who the hell thinks Mike McCarthy? Like, if I'm seeing like JJ beefing with a player or McCarthy beefing with a player, I'm thinking it's JJ, not a coach. So ESPN, get your headlines right. Same with like Allen. Jay Allen hurt for the Bills. I think Josh Allen, not John Allen or whatever that other guy is, which I already complained about a couple weeks ago. But it's crappy reporting like that gets me fired up for no reason. I don't even know. Carolina's so bad that I could just play whatever team plays them. But it's the Saints, and the Saints haven't been good either. The Saints started so good. I think it was Derek Carr got injured, and that's been their year. I don't even know if him coming back is going to do anything. You think Jim Harbaugh is going to have his team do well?
I don't know.
They haven't impressed me as much as, well, I wonder if the style that Michigan won with last year has ruined him. Because their offense is horrible. It's just as bad as Michigan last year. Remember
my thing is I haven't really watched a lot of the Chargers this year.
It's bad. You wouldn't want to. It's like watching Michigan offense. People are saying like they should fire Greg Roman. I'm like, I know you NFL guys haven't watched like college, but this is Jim. He has evolved into this style where it's like we're gonna grind it out no matter what. I don't care if I have Herbert. We don't really have any receivers anyway. So maybe he would open it up if they got somebody. But it's almost like watching Michigan squeak out wins. That you're relying on the defense. The defense isn't really full of studs anyway. So it's like uncomfortable. Like their fans can't be happy. I mean, they're winning. You're always happier when you win, right? But it's very Steelers-esque. Without, I guess they do get the hype. I was saying without the Russell Wilson hype, but they got the Herbert hype. I saw something that was like, Herbert hasn't reached his potential under Jim Harbaugh yet. I'm like, he's not going to. This is like, remember last year whenever everyone assumed that JJ only threw touchdowns because of the sign stealing thing? And then it was like, oh no, that's just the offense they're calling. That's the offense he took to the Chargers. So like, if anyone has any of the Chargers on their fantasy team, it has to be insanity for them. I have one of their receivers. It's like, I think it was their number one at one point. He's averaging like 9 points a game because they barely pass. And I'm like, do you play him on like the bye week? That's why I brought up the Harbaugh thing. Like, I don't know if that's going to, he's so conservative now. I don't know if that's going to do anything in the playoffs. So I don't know how to feel. I almost wonder if he's going to have buyer's remorse, because he was close to being on the all-time list of winningest coaches. But then you have whatever he's going through right now where they're barely winning and their fans are going to start to get pressure on him. I think they're 4-3. Like they're behind the Broncos. They didn't bring him in to fall behind the Broncos. They lost the Steelers, Chiefs, Cards. and then they beat the Saints. Now they're going to play the Browns. So we'll have a good insight next week. Or no, they're on a bye. Or no, they're not. They play the Browns this week. So we'll know. I'll watch that game because Jameis is in. See what happens. Unless Jameis gets benched. Probably not, though.
I don't think that he'll get benched.
The Chargers have such a favorable schedule, though. I said it at the beginning of the year that Harbaugh should get 10 wins. I don't know if that's going to happen. He's going to hurt himself. Anything else you want to talk about in the NFL?
No.
All right, let's get into college. Florida State, we'll start with them. They're on the brink.
They're just in a bad place overall.
Do you think it's going to hurt long term, though? Which is why I'm bringing it up.
No, because I feel like his contract is so high and the buyout is ridiculous that there's literally no way that they can fire him right now because he's at $65 million. Like, when you look at the condition of the roster right now, and I think a big part of it was the fact that, you know, we've looked at, can you live in the portal forever? I don't think that it's a viable option. I think that's where you're starting to see, like, Pitt and Clemson, they're not pulling as much from the portal, but they're developing more within their classes, and there's a little bit more stability there. I think with the younger players that Florida State's brought in, there's been no development. Like, they've had to thrive, they've had to survive on pulling in transfer portal players because they need guys to fill in these gaps right away. Like, I feel like whether it's off the field guys, whether it's the position coaches that are just completely whiffing on who they need to be recruiting, there's glaring issues. And I think if you fire Norvell, then you got to pay for another coach, you got to pay for the assistants, and you got to try to fund the roster. Like, I think it's too much money to try to throw collectively. And it's not like they're this bigger program that has billions of dollars set aside for all of this. Like, they're in the middle of a stadium project. I do think Norvell is a good coach, but I think he's just in a situation now where he has to look at the program and he has to make changes.
So now, how many wins do you think they need for you to feel confident going into next year?
I mean, honestly, I'm chalking up the rest of this season as a loss. I don't anticipate, like, I think they could end up over.
No, they play Charleston Southern, bro.
I didn't stutter.
Charleston Southern's 1-7. If they lose to them,
there's a legitimate shot that they could lose to them.
I think they're going to beat Notre Dame.
I mean, on one hand,
that's just me wishing, though. I think
on one hand, yeah, it's plausible.
Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois, and then after that, they've been putting their season together. And people are pretending like they're one of the top teams because then A&M's leading the SEC. And so they're like, oh, yeah, blah, 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 doing all this stuff. Although, wait, did A&M win that game? No, I'm getting confused because I think they're still leading. Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, A&M's the only undefeated team left in the SEC. So they're getting the Notre Dame bump. They're bumping Notre Dame because Notre Dame beat them. That's their only loss. And then Notre Dame loses to Northern Illinois, which is a bad look by both the SEC and Notre Dame. You can't deny it. Like, the year Ohio State won the national championship, they lost to Virginia Tech, and everyone was like, Virginia Tech sucks, the Big Ten sucks. And it's like, Virginia Tech is light years ahead of Northern Illinois in terms of, like, prestige. So losing to Northern Illinois is way worse because Northern Illinois, where's Maction on here? I think they're still in the MAC. They're 4-4, Matt. Their big win is Notre Dame. Like, how do you lose that game? I don't care. You can say about not getting up for it or whatever. Even like when Michigan lost to App State still went and, like, I don't know if they won the national championship that year in the lower division or what, but they were still a better program than Northern Illinois. That's why they make more noise now than Northern Illinois. So having that be the blemish on Notre Dame, the big expansion for the playoff really helps them. And so I need a team like Florida State to kind of knock them down. Because with two big losses like that, it has to hurt. And I don't think A&M is going to win the SEC. So if they don't, that kind of helps knock Notre Dame down too. Now, if Notre Dame's big win is over the SEC champ, it doesn't really matter if they lost to Florida State and Northern Illinois, though. Because right now, Notre Dame's taunting their big-time wins over undefeated Navy and what will be Army as their two big wins. But there's no way they end up ranked. So then it will really come down to just A&M and maybe Louisville if they end up ranked. But we'll see. I think they're going to get in. I hope they get their faces smashed in. Although it depends on who they play. If they play like Ohio State, I can't cheer for Ohio State. I'll have a real dilemma on my hands. I still think, because like we talked about the teams or the conferences right now that are going to be having issues. The ACC still has 4 teams undefeated. And then they have Virginia Tech with 1 loss. So if something happens where there's like a round robin, there's still a good chance that we get a bunch of teams tying. In the Big Ten, you still have 3 teams undefeated. Indiana's probably going to lose. They're going to play Ohio State, although maybe they beat Ohio State. I'm going to go ahead. I'll try to jinx Ohio State. Yeah, they're going to kill Indiana. Indiana has no hope to beat Ohio State when they play them. Penn State plays Ohio State this week. There's a good chance Penn State loses. But then you're going to get into, if all those scenarios hold true, the Big Ten could have 3 teams with 1 loss. SEC is where it's going to be a nightmare because they have Georgia, Texas, Tennessee, and LSU, all with 1 loss tied for second behind A&M. And A&M should have, they do play Texas, but other than that, they should have smooth sailing. They play South Carolina and Auburn. So the only thing that's really going to mess them up is if they lose to Texas, and then if there's like a 3-way tie, Texas would have to lose out or win out though. And they have to play Florida and Arkansas and Kentucky. It would be funny if A&M won the SEC for the first time the exact year that Texas joined. That's what I want to happen. But yeah, anything you want to talk about around the NCAA before I start talking about Michigan a little bit?
I was actually surprised at how well Pitt had played. Like, they had all the turnovers against Syracuse, and with the new offensive coordinator, like, it definitely just feels like they're really coming into their own right now.
Yeah, they've been killing. That's what I said. Don't sleep on them. Clemson fans, they have to play them. And right now, that's why when you have the undefeated teams in the ACC, if Pitt beats Clemson, all they have to do is they could drop one, but they have to play at SMU, Virginia, Louisville, and Boston College. I think SMU is one of the undefeated teams, yeah. And then Clemson. That stretch by Pitt, starting with SMU this weekend, is going to be key. If they can somehow beat SMU and Clemson, they would have the tiebreaker over them. The team's most likely for them to tie, right? Because Miami doesn't play SMU, I don't think. Miami doesn't play any of them. Miami has Duke, Georgia Tech, Wake Forest, and Syracuse. Miami should be undefeated in the ACC, which I think puts them undefeated at the top. Pitt's playing a harder schedule. And so, would Pitt be battle tested? Would they beat them? Like, I wonder, we should get people to come. I should see if people want to come down to the game. It's in Charlotte still, right? I think. A Pitt Miami ACC championship game, tickets will be what, $3? Remember that one? Who did Florida State play when the tickets, was it Georgia Tech when the tickets were like $7? Like a Pitt Miami, I don't care. I don't care who you are. They're not driving to Charlotte to see that game. Both teams struggle with attendance. The ticket, they'd probably tarp the upper deck though. One side would say Pitt, one side would say Miami. So when they did the blimp view, you would know the stadium's empty. But that would be a game. I'll have to message Jeff, tell him to come on back on the show and do a special episode. Say, come on down, dude. Come to the game. We'll do a live game from Pitt, Miami ACC Championship. Although I think Pitt's going to blow it and Clemson will get there. I just have a feeling Clemson's going to make some noise this year. Not in the playoffs, but overall in like the ACC, and kind of Dabo's going to say like, we're back. You keep making fun of me for NIL, but we're back, baby. Jesus wished it upon him, and he was able to get it done, Matt. That's what he would talk, and then he would open 3 NIL churches. Tiger Church, right there in South Carolina, for people to send their donations to help them land 5-star defensive tackles. And the next Sammy Watkins. But I don't know. Like I don't know if Pitt even has a chance. Pitt's in the same place right now, though. They have no losses. So if they lose to Clemson, they're probably in the playoffs. They're in the Indiana spot, right? Where if you have a team like Indiana and Pitt that people usually have lower expectations to, they go through and end up 11-1, even if they don't get in the conference championship game. Because in that scenario, like let's say Indiana loses to Ohio State. Ohio State has a rematch with Oregon. Indiana's sitting on the sidelines at 11-1. If Oregon beats Ohio State again, I don't think they're going to jump Indiana over Ohio State. Like they're going to fall. I mean, maybe they put both in. I think they'd have to. It'd be like last year, remember? They put both Texas and Bama in.
Yeah.
Because they're like, well, we need to have Bama in. The only way we can do that is if we put Texas in. Like they'll say, well, we need to have Ohio State in. The only way that can happen is if we put Indiana in. And then Clemson and Pitt could be the same. Like what if Pitt beats Clemson but loses to SMU and the championship game is SMU and Miami?
Well, I feel like they're already setting the table for Miami to get a snub. And I know, like, you would think with this expanded format, there's no way that that's possible. But I mean, they already showed last year that they're willing to, they don't give a rat's ass about what teams they put in, as long as it fits who like these head people want. So it's not outside the realm of possibility that, you look at a team like Indiana that has is undefeated, and they have all these other teams ranked in front of them, and Miami that's undefeated and has teams like multiple SEC teams and Big Ten teams ranked ahead of them, that it's like it's not outside the realm of possibility that they could get a snub.
So right now, Indiana's 13 behind Clemson at 11. In theory, they should be. Clemson lost to Georgia, so they have them up there. Miami's 5, so they're not too far. And the ACC champ gets an automatic bid, right? I mean, in theory, unless something off the wall happens, like an unranked Virginia Tech gets in. Or no, did they have an automatic bid? Isn't it the top 5 conferences, or is it the winners of the Power 4 and then one extra conference? That's what I wasn't sure on. Because they make it seem like it's always going to be the Power, but I thought the way they wrote is that they had one extra, so that at least one group of 5 made it. But even if, like, let's say Virginia Tech is 5-3, they have the one ACC loss, they could in theory win out and get in with a tiebreaker and end up 10-3. They might only be ranked like 21. I know Liberty lost, but there's a chance like Liberty could have been ranked higher than them, and like some other undefeated Army, like, right? They beat Notre Dame. They're in the AAC. You have Army already ahead of Virginia Tech. They'd be undefeated back in like before last week. They would have undefeated Liberty. I don't think Virginia Tech would have been ahead of them. So like, would the ACC have been left out? Or were there assurances that there would at least be one ACC team in? That's what I don't know. But I guess we won't have that scenario this year. Oh, Boise's 15. So maybe. Washington State. Who did Washington State lose to? Oh, they lost No. Oh, they lost to Boise. They really shot themselves in the foot there. They could have been the Pac-12 champ. They are playing Oregon State twice next year, which is weird. I don't get that. But yeah, let's see. The Big Ten. Did you see there's a fight at the end of the Michigan State game? As always, they tried to say that Michigan started. The Big Ten did their review today and said that the Michigan players at all the Michigan State like media said they were like fighting staffers. The police that were there saying that like they were helping break up the fight. And they didn't have any other footage released. But I think it's funny that the police came to the aid of Michigan players. Like if they're really kicking a policeman, do you think he's going to be like, nah, he was helping me up? So the media like going and calling for players to like be suspended or kicked off the team when you couldn't see what was going on. I think that's a little much. And I think that shows people around the country that the Big Ten, it's not like the SEC. Like I could never see an SEC media member just like attacking another fan base like that. But Michigan State does it all the time. It's so annoying having like they live up to their name of being like little brother, dude. And they like eat it up. It's insane. I'm pretty sure I was at the conference. I saw a guy in a Michigan hoodie and I told him go blue. And his response was almost like a sad cry that made me think that he was wearing that sweatshirt on a bet. Like he was a Spartans fan. It's like, hey, if you lose, you have to wear this Michigan sweatshirt to the conference. Because the way he looked at me, he was so pissed that I said go blue to him that I was like, well, I didn't ask him any questions though because we were just walking by each other. And he just shook his head and put his head down. And I thought, good for you, buddy. Good for you wearing your Michigan sweatshirt after we beat him. Because everyone, like I even said, if it was a 21-point line, I would have 100% bet on Michigan State to cover that. And luckily it dropped to 5 and then Michigan ended up covering, which I said I wouldn't touch. Because you never know what's going to happen in a game like that. I thought for sure that Michigan was going to, if anything, win on like a last second field goal. Instead, they drew up the trick play where I'm pretty sure Donovan Edwards has never thrown an incomplete pass in college, dude. And I think he has like 3 or 4 touchdowns. I think his passer rating is like someone posted it. I don't know if it was up to date, but his like passer rating is like thousands of points. He's like 5 for 5 with 3 touchdowns or something like that. I don't know the exact stats. I should see if I can find it. But he's hit on every trick play. He hit on one in the Big Ten championship game for a touchdown. That was like in stride. He threw a pass against Michigan State, and you would think that they would know that he's going to throw the ball sometimes, because everyone said like, what a great fake. And I didn't even think that he even tried to run. Like he had it in his hand ready to throw immediately. Let's see, Sports Illustrated. Do they have his actual stats? It does say he's the only running back with multiple touchdown runs, multiple touchdown passes, and multiple touchdown receptions. I guess he has 2. Is it? I thought he had 3. The one was the Big Ten championship game. And then is the second one Michigan State? Or was that? Why does the Big Ten show me highlights? Oh, no, it is. So he has 2 right now. So he has to be. Why don't they just show us stats? Dude, I hate articles like this. You know how like you read an article and you think, oh, they're going to show the stats at the front. Then they have like a bunch of unrelated paragraphs about like where he's from or like Michigan's history of running backs. And then it's like, he's experienced some highs and lows throughout his career. He was a young freshman. He was eager and a little impatient. Like, what is that? I don't care. I typed in receiving or passing stats.
And then they went full ESPN on you.
And they still didn't tell me what his passing is. They said he's thrown for 131 yards and 2 passing touchdowns. But I thought he was like 5 for 5 or 6 for 6. I guess I'll never know. I guess I'll have to find like Sports Reference or something to find out his stats to see. But I think that's a cool stat that you have. A guy that can just run trick plays and they always hit. Although I'll probably jinx it. He'll throw one at Ohio State and they'll throw like a pick 6 or something. But Michigan didn't have a quarterback. My point is, why not just have Donovan Edwards do it? They put Alex Orji in there, and they were afraid to make him pass, so all he was doing is running. And then they were afraid to have him run when he was the full-time quarterback. You can put Donovan Edwards back there, and then you're not afraid to let him run because he's a running back. And he can throw the ball. I mean, he's not going to be a quarterback in the NFL, but the season's already gone. I said it before. I didn't see any improvement. The offense still was awful and had Michigan State have a chance to come back in the game. I mean, it's taken trick plays for Michigan to get guys open, and Michigan State is not even good. Like, not being rude to them. I think they're a well-coached team. I saw a lot of their fans complaining, saying that they need to fire Smith because they shouldn't have lost to this Michigan team. I agree. That really stinks because Michigan is not well-coached either. But again, Michigan has such a talent advantage that the line was 21 this summer. You just can't win if you have like no 3-stars or like even blue chips on your roster at all, like Michigan State has. There was no business of that game being close. Last year was 49-0. Michigan State has not improved their roster. Michigan still has one of the top blue chip ratios in the country, like enough to win the national championship. They should not be losing to teams like Illinois. No offense to Illinois. They got crushed by Oregon. It wasn't even a close game. I mean, Purdue scored like 49 points on Illinois or whatever it was. And Purdue's not even good. Like Michigan had trouble scoring on them. That's 100% on coaching. So I'm still in the same boat. If Sharon Moore, if he beats Ohio State, then he'll have my attention. Because for whatever reason, he's winning rivalry games. I know people think, well, Michigan State, they're nothing. But Harbaugh struggled with them. Brady Hoke struggled with them. And if Sharon Moore can keep winning, he won the jog. He beat Minnesota. He beat Michigan State. If he somehow this year beats Ohio State, then I think he can have another year. I still think that if he loses if they don't make a bowl game, because he loses the rest of these games, because he has to play Oregon this week, the line's creeping up on that. I wouldn't touch it. That could be a beatdown of insanity. Will Johnson's already not playing. I don't know if it's a soft, I'm sitting out for the rest of the year to get ready for the draft, or what's going on. I did see he was selling his own Buffs, Matt, those Detroit sunglasses. I don't know if you know about that. It's like what? Our touchdown celebration. They wear the Buffs. They're like a really like $2,000 set of sunglasses from Detroit. So he was selling his own knockoffs on like for NIL. They were $20. I was going to get a pair for you, but they sold out immediately. I didn't even get my own pair. Because I thought that'd be funny. You're wearing like, they were blue, they were cool. And I thought, oh, this would be cool. Like a maize and like they're gold, like maize and blue, they look like. And they're the cheap Buffs. I thought, imagine wearing that around school at Claysburg, because they'd have been your colors, dude. They'd have been like, man, why are you wearing these the Buffs? Like, oh, they're big in Detroit. That's what you could have told people. No, these are Detroit glasses. My cousin got them for me. And then they'd have been like, oh, cool. Just like Claysburg colors. Then it really would have made me laugh. But I'm surprised that they sold out so fast. But I guess you never know with NIL stuff. Because I mean, even a guy not playing, but he won the national championship, so you got to give him credit. I'm not even mad if he sits out because it doesn't look like the team is coming to get together. Loveland played though; he played well. He was in that fight at the end. He started it. I'm not saying that he's the player that started it, but him and the guy he was up against, they were like button heads, and then the guy slapped him or punched him. Did a slap or a punch if you're wearing a helmet? Right? Do I have to analyze the hand? So it was like a slap to the face, like a Three Stooges, dude. It started a whole kerfuffle on the field. And that's my Big Ten thing. Like, if Michigan's going to go in and have any chance to pull off some upsets to mess up the Big Ten championship game, they have to beat Oregon at home. And then in the same time, you have Penn State playing Ohio State. Drew Aller went down. Can Ohio State get any more lucky? I don't know if Penn State, if Aller, he hasn't even played good this year. But I don't think there's any world where I think James Franklin can have a backup quarterback ready to go. Do you? I've seen nothing of the sort, right? Where I'm convinced that like Penn State's going to be better off without him. Because you talk about teams getting passed up. I think Georgia's number 2 still, aren't they? And if Alabama would have finished the deal and really killed them like they were supposed to, and then they would put them at number 2, then it would be even weirder. But Penn State has not looked solid. Ohio State has not looked good. Ohio State should have lost to Nebraska if Nebraska had any type of good play calling. They're on the goal line. They couldn't score. They had an awful pick to end the game. Matt Rule has to be upset. But Nebraska's going to Nebraska. Your boy Dion's doing well.
They're playing better.
Well, they're always playing better. But they always find a way to lose, though. Remember, the Big Ten is expanded now, so everyone's schedule has gotten weaker. I mean, I guess some teams have gotten tougher, maybe. And maybe the Big Ten West is a little bit tougher. But, like, they beat Colorado. I would say right now, Colorado, if they had a rematch, would beat them. Dion has his boys playing well. Remember, the media had them winning 4 games only. They're already bowl eligible. They're 6-2, aren't they?
Yeah.
So that has to have people pumped up. Because the Big 12 is kind of open. Although I saw that their schedule is so weird too, that whatever the team is set up in there right away, I think that it wasn't BYU. I'm looking at, was it Kansas State? Might have been Kansas State right now. They're like the only team that controls their destiny. Yeah, because they play Iowa State to end the year. Or I think it was them that they said. So like Colorado doesn't control their destiny because they lost to Kansas State. So if Kansas State wins out, it'll be them and BYU in the championship game. Those are the only 2 teams that control their destiny. Other than, I guess, Iowa State. Although, right? In terms of one-loss teams. Yeah, they just have more games. So, we'll see what happens. Colorado State has to have some upsets because those other teams, if they win out, they'll have the advantage because Kansas State beat them already. And then Colorado doesn't play the rest of them. They have to play. What do they play? Texas Tech, Utah, Kansas, and Oklahoma State. Which Utah and Oklahoma State have to be disappointments. They're like, Oklahoma State's 0-5, Utah's 1-4. And they were in like the top 10. People laugh at Michigan and Florida State for falling out. What about those other teams from the Big 12? No one brings them up. They like it because Harbaugh's not even there. So the Michigan ones, people are like, oh yeah, they stink. It's like, yeah, we lost our coach. Oh yeah, that's right. And then that's all people say to me. Like they don't know what to say after that. No one brings up sign stealing anymore because they know it's dumb. That's
well,
why
I feel like there's so many other people that now are using that helmet technology that it's just kind of null and void.
I know. Well, Steins is right though. I watch a couple games and you still see guys signaling. What was it? Someone posted like the first couple series for Michigan State. They had their guy running over to the sideline to get signals, and then they realized like it didn't matter. Like Michigan's defense wasn't even looking at their sideline, and Wink Martindale just doing his own weird thing. And then I had to watch the Steelers game last night, and they talked about like Wink Martindale's defense is like how the Giants look more sound, and I'm like, I know, because Michigan's defense is so dumb. Like all he has to do, I want to just write him a letter every day. I should, you know how they do like the pen pals for school. I should go get a school to like, hey, there's a local football coach that's really sick. Can you guys write a bunch of letters to him for me? And I'll be like, here's the form filled. Like on 3rd and long, don't blitz. And then like just bombard him with letters.
Dear school, you guys have a roster filled with talent. You don't have to blitz.
Bro, all he has to do is realize that, hey, whatever I'm doing on 1st and 2nd down is working. Why am I always blitzing 6 or more on 3rd down? Like the 3rd down conversion rate has to be insane. Like maybe not the regular 3rd down conversion rate, but 3rd and longs, it feels like everyone's hitting. because I what was the one where Will Jones, I told you, like, you could clearly see that they were throwing right behind whatever linebacker was blitzing every time. So they knew it was coming. Like, up 3rd and long, they're going to be blitzing. Maybe he's saving it for the Ohio State game where it'll throw Will Howard off. He'll just start throwing a bunch of picks because he won't know what's going on. That's my dream. But Michigan's coaches don't seem like they're that good. I don't think they would play a long game, right? I mean, the offense, people were saying like, oh, offense looked like it kind of made sense. It's like, kinda? They had to run trick plays to score a touchdown. What are you talking about?
Wishful thinking.
Yeah, they're like, yeah, it looks like it's finally coming together. Finally coming together.
They kind of didn't suck ass.
It's just the player personnel too. Like, there's so many decisions where it's like, oh, so-and-so lineman looks so good. Why is he playing like only one series a quarter? And then it's like Pro Football Focus like grades him as like the highest Michigan lineman. It's like everyone can see it. That's coaching, not playing the right guy. Like Brian Kelly having his team in big games at LSU and then not finishing. Like, not that because I always say like, well, he wanted the Michigan job. Maybe he didn't want that, but you just wait for him to have a big game. Like, they could knock Alabama out this week. Or no, it's a bye week. They could knock Alabama out next week. They have them at home. LSU beats them. There's no chance of Alabama winning anything. I think that would there are 2 losses right now, but with the tiebreaker, you never know. If LSU beats them, DeBoer's first year in Tuscaloosa would not be a good one. I think that would eliminate them from the playoff. Because like that, we talked about Pitt and Indiana. There's no way you're going to have an 11-1 team get jumped by what would be a 9-3 Alabama with like no big wins. I guess Georgia, but that's it. I guess I could say Pitt doesn't have any big wins, maybe, if they lose to Clemson. But I think that would be a really hard sell for people if you're putting a 9-3 Bama in over 11-1 Pitt or Indiana. Plus, I think people want to see other teams that have never been in it. Like Pitt hasn't been in the playoffs. It would be hilarious if Penn State lost to Ohio State and they somehow missed the playoffs only for Pitt to make it. I kind of want that to happen, don't you? It'd be funny if Pitt somehow like won a playoff game too, and they're just like in the Final Four. It's like, hey, Pitt's here. Holy crap. Narduzzi, put up the Pat signal. Because all the teams that talk about the talent, the 12-team playoff, it's only going to make sense or at least get fans back into it. Because a lot of fans say they dropped off because like, oh, we don't like the playoff system or whatever. If like teams like Pitt get in, I think that would have to squash a bunch of arguments of it being the same teams. That's my final thought for the week.
Yeah.
There's a lot of big games. I think if we start to see, like, heck, if by some miracle, because people say like, oh, there's no way Dion makes the playoffs. Yeah, there is. All he has to do is win the Big 12. They have one loss. All they have to do is win out now. And Hunter should be the Heisman, him or the guy from Boise State. If they pick a quarterback, I don't want to see Heisman be mentioned on TV ever again. Because it's supposed to be the best player. Aiden Hutchinson should have won it like 2 years ago or whenever. It should have been him. He's been killing it in the NFL. I know he got hurt this year. It's the best player in college. He turned Michigan around. Hutchinson should have won it. It should have been Hunter this year. No one's playing both ways and being as good as he is. I know he's been banged up a little bit. Heisman. By far, it should be him, or like I said, the running back from Boise State, because his stats are so high that he's going to break some records, unless things kind of took a downturn for him. But if either of those teams, if Colorado ends up ranked, because remember, they gave it to Louisville, was it Lamar, when they didn't make the playoffs or anything? They were like 9-3. And then they gave it to the guy, Daniels, from LSU last year that didn't do anything. Like, they weren't even in the SEC championship game. So there's a precedent that you don't have to be good on a good team to get the Heisman. Give it to Travis Hunter.
Brian, I like the the running back from Boise, because his stats are just so outrageous right now that anyone else that's trying to make a valid point right now, just you can't.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's those two. If it's supposed to be the best player, Colorado's winning with Hunter. Boise State's running back, was it Jetty? I don't want to say his name wrong. That's why I haven't been saying it.
Yeah.
Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
He has.
That's what I'm going to go with.
So you don't know either. We're going to sound like idiots.
I'm pretty sure that's what it is, but I'm not going to bet my life.
Isn't it like JEA?
Because originally I was like, why do they? Yeah.
So I even know how to spell it, and I don't have it up. So people that are listening, they think that I'm lucky. Matt can vouch for me. I'm looking at the camera, kind of. My phone's down here. I still have the SEC rankings up for whatever reason. Not the stats, but I don't know how to say his name, and he's so good that I only hear them talk about it when they talk about the Heisman, because they'll throw some random quarterback in there. And honestly, I thought it was going to be a runaway by Quinn Ewers, but my boy fell apart. And Michigan hasn't looked good, so then I'm like, is Texas even that good? That's why, if A&M wins it, because is this Elko's first year there? That would be the most insane rags to riches story of all time. Texas A&M gets rid of Jimbo, brings in a coach from Duke, and even if it's not his first year, it has to be like his second. And they win the SEC for the first time ever.
That's a good story.
Think all the celebrating those boys would do down there, the 12th man. It'd be crazy. Anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
No.
All right. Well, thanks for listening. If there's anything you want us to talk about, let us know, and we will see you next week.